Microsoft just shared a ton about the future of Xbox, including new streaming hardware. For fans of Xbox, today is a really good day because Microsoft is sharing a lot, and I mean a lot of information about the future of Xbox, how they look at everything from Game Pass to consoles to acquisitions to upcoming titles, a whole smattering of information. And on this particular video, we're going to be diving into the streaming aspect and Game Pass in particular that Microsoft has shared. But make sure to keep it subscribed because I'm going to be dropping videos pretty much all through the weekend about diving really deep into individual aspects of what Microsoft has talked about. I know that at a high level, it may not look like much, but when you really pull that onion apart, you really start to see how Microsoft is thinking about the road ahead for Xbox. There really was a lot to share. I mean, they talked business, they talked acquisition strategy, they talked IP strategy, and you really got to pull it apart to understand what Microsoft is doing. And that is what I'm going to do for you, dear listener, over the next couple days as we plow through this event and through E3. There is just a lot going on, but I want to dive in first to Microsoft talking about future hardware, which is a really big deal. Now, I'm going to be rolling some B-roll through all of this just because you may not want to stare at me the entire time. But that being said, Microsoft has not shared any official images yet, but they are talking in very clear language that they are developing hardware designed specifically to stream xCloud or cloud gaming to a device. So let's just roll it back a little bit and start at a higher level. Many years ago, Microsoft had a product that was codenamed Hobart, and many of you might have remembered, I think I might have scooped this, I can't remember, but they didn't ship the product, and it effectively was an Xbox-style streaming stick. Now, we don't know what the exact hardware is going to look like that Microsoft is working on, but they are working on it. But let's talk about Game Pass here for a minute, because Microsoft shared some numbers to the media during an event. Now, Microsoft is saying that they believe the console sort of demographic is somewhere between 200 and 250 million households are interested in consoles. That's a fairly sizable number, but when you can put it into comparison to the total gaming population of about 3 billion users, you can see why Microsoft is going so aggressively after cloud gaming and Game Pass. So Game Pass has just been a huge bright spot for Microsoft and also developers. They're sharing some new stats today where they said Xbox Game Pass members play 30% more games or 30% more genres and 40% more games, and more than 90% of members said they play a game they would not have tried without Game Pass. I actually fall definitely into that category of I'm trying more games because I'm already paying for Game Pass and it's available. They say on average across Game Pass library, partners are also seeing engagement up more than 8x when they enter Game Pass. That's a pretty obvious statement, right? You put your game into Game Pass, you're going to see more engagement because people aren't paying specifically for your title, but they can now access it for quote unquote free. It's part of their subscription. But compared to interactions with EA specifically, EA Play has seen record usage on the Microsoft platforms, driving hours played on these platforms up by more than 200%. EA, it sounds like it's a very positive relationship Microsoft has currently with them through the Game Pass and EA inclusion into that. And they also stated that during launch week, MLB The Show 21 was the biggest sports game of the past year on Xbox and the second biggest sport game of all time on Xbox. Now, that's a pretty big deal because remember, that's a PlayStation Studios developed title. Obviously, it is now also available on PlayStation and for the first time Xbox, and there was significant engagement there. Just a significant win for Microsoft is that developers are seeing a lot of positive effect by being into Game Pass. So remember how well Outriders did, and for like free-to-play games, obviously going into Game Pass is sort of a given, but for titles like Outriders, where they also are selling it, Microsoft is saying that developers are seeing a very positive uptake for when games move in and out of Game Pass. It's a really interesting marketing positioning for the service. Moving on to something that is slightly more, I think, up everybody's alley who's watching this. We're going to talk about endpoints here because Microsoft did a lot of talking about expanding the endpoints of where you'll be able to play cloud gaming on just multiple types of devices. Available today, assuming that you're in the beta or it'll eventually be available to everybody, we have Android devices, we have iOS devices, we also have the browser, right? These are all endpoints that we are known. Microsoft is taking the next step. They're going to start working with TV manufacturers to include an Xbox application on the device so that you'll be able to access cloud gaming from an internet-connected TV. All you will need is a controller. Now, we don't know the full details on if Microsoft is going to let them, if like the RF protocol that Microsoft uses for the Xbox console is going to be utilized, or more than likely, I'm guessing it might be a Bluetooth protocol connection to the TV to enable this functionality. But either way, these Xbox applications are going to start showing up on TVs that you go to Best Buy, and then you just open it up, and then there's your console quality gaming experience directly installed already on the TV. It obviously connects to the cloud gaming service and then streams it down. Now, you might be wondering, what if I don't have an internet connected TV device? And this is where Microsoft is getting serious about it, because they are going to start building their own streaming hardware that will allow you to plug it into your TV and get that experience. We don't have all the details yet. All Microsoft is saying is that they are working on streaming hardware to enable cloud gaming connections. Obviously, it would work with a controller. We all kind of think it's going to be like a media stick, right? That seems to make the most sense. You plug it in just like you would like an HD Fire Stick. It connects up to the Xbox cloud gaming service, streams the cloud games down, and then you can play. Obviously, the goal here is going to be getting the lowest price point possible, but we know that Microsoft is now officially confirming that they are working on their own hardware that will enable cloud streaming directly to a device for basically, I'm assuming, anything that has an HDMI connection. So you can think like a monitor. You could also think like more than likely, a TV in your living room. This is a really big deal. They're also saying in the next few weeks, cloud gaming on the browser will open up to everybody. And they're also talking now officially that they're going to be bringing Xbox cloud gaming experiences to the console. Now, what does that mean? That means you'll be able to go into the store, hypothetically speaking, and then click on a game and start playing it instantly, at least to try it out, game demos, or more specifically, if you're using Game Pass, you can go in there and just play any title instantly. And then potentially when you're done, it just downloads in the background. And then when you play it the next time, you're actually playing it locally rather than streaming it, because we all know that playing things locally will always be better than streaming, but the cloud is getting better. Speaking of the cloud getting better, Microsoft is currently in the process of upgrading all of their cloud gaming service to Xbox Series X hardware. We knew this was coming, but again, Microsoft is making it official that when this comes online, you're going to get better frame rates and you're going to get higher quality visuals. Obviously, there's still a lot of things going on with the connection, and Microsoft is doing their magic to optimize the connection back and forth. But this is going to be an upgrade to make those servers more powerful and deliver a better gaming experience to people using cloud gaming. This is really, really interesting stuff for multiple reasons, because what Microsoft is trying to do here is if you went back 10 years ago and you wanted to play a console game, let's just use Halo at a broad, high level. If you wanted to play Halo, there was a tax to do that. That tax was that you had to go out and buy a gaming console that was several $100s. And for many people, that's not an option. It's either too expensive, maybe the console wasn't available, or whatever the reason being, you had that gaming tax was there, that you had to go buy this specific hardware. What Microsoft is trying to do is to access that 3 billion user population by removing that tax. Now, there's a couple options, right? You could do it with existing devices through the Android, iOS, or your PC. But if you really want to play it in what most people believe the optimal experience, it's the living room. Now, you might be thinking, well, they're going to address that too with devices that are already on the TVs you're buying, or by making low-cost hardware that plugs in so you don't have to pay that tax. Even though the Xbox Series S is only $299, again, somebody could look at it and say, look, I can buy a couple years of Game Pass for that same amount of money and get a very good experience right here on my TV. Microsoft is really trying hard to unlock that experience of console quality gaming to the vast majority of people without having to buy a console. Now, some people might interpret this to say Microsoft is going to stop building consoles. That is absolutely not the case, and they're not going to stop supporting the PC either. But the idea here is that for Microsoft to grow the Xbox brand, to grow the Xbox business, which is at the essence of them buying more studios, creating more content, they have to get more gamers into the pool of potential users. 250 million households interested in consoles doesn't quite cut it. If you can tap into that 3 billion market, it absolutely does. And that is why they're going to be building their own streaming hardware to get the lowest possible price point. Then they also have the Xbox Series S and X and PC and phones, and they're bringing Xbox everywhere. This is a massive and titanic shift for the Xbox brand, but it's going to make it more sustainable. And Microsoft has already started seeing the fruits of this with positive praise for Xbox Game Pass. There is so much more that we need to talk about through all of this. But Microsoft just has content plans. They have PC expansion strategies going on. And Microsoft has done a wonderful job of laying out how they are looking at the roadmap of their business, which tells you the fundamentals of how they're going to deliver games in the future. So we are just getting started, folks. My intent here is to drop a video just about every single day for the next few days, diving into different elements. But for now, what you need to know is that Microsoft is building game streaming hardware. They are going to get into that demographic, into that market. They're also bringing Game Pass to every endpoint, and it is a very aggressive strategy by the company to do so, because that unlocks potential customers and that unlocks more revenue and allows them to do more things and makes Xbox even more sustainable. It is an exciting time to be following Xbox as they pursue this. I don't want to say it's an untapped market, but it was relatively unproven of, can you take console gaming to the masses? And that is what Microsoft is betting on. They're betting on that, yeah, you can, and that people will actually pay for it, and that this is a good value. Will that bet pay off? I think most of us are optimistic and say it will, but the reality is we don't quite know yet. Microsoft is dumping billions and billions of dollars into building out cloud services, in the marketing engine, and locking up IP. Look how much they just spent for Bethesda. So there's billions of dollars on the line, and Microsoft is making a huge bet on the future of Xbox, and they're starting to lay out the game plan, and it's really, really fascinating. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the only BS on this channel is me.